Oh. Hi, Selene.
Hi, Susan.
Selene, today I wanted to ask you on a very delicate topic. And it's a delicate topic because I even hesitate in asking you, and that is about black magic. There's a way in which I've never wanted to even consider its existence. Coming from this uber rational world. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the presence, or what is this black magic, and the effect that the fear of black magic has had on how rituals have been treated and how entire populations have been treated by the Christian church, especially the American Christian church. So I was wondering whether you'd be interested in talking about that.
Oh, yes. It's a very interesting topic. Very interesting, yes. Because, you see, in order to speak about black magic, we should think at black as bad, and bad and good are mental issues. They don't exist in nature. Nature is beauty, not bad and good, or good and wrong, right and false. Nature is a beauty, and beauty in nature doesn't have an opposite, because ugliness doesn't exist in nature. You see, we live in a symbolic universe, which is also an imaginal universe. Everything is image, dream, projection in our world. And everything is bring into existence by a narrative, an inner narrative, a myth. And so the myth of bad and good bring into existence the bad and good. And this is the myth at the base of a civilization. As the great Italian poet Ungaretti said in an interview, a civilization is an act against nature, because each civilization comes into the existence dividing life and death, bad and good, good and evil, right and wrong, true and false. And it does that in order to keep a control upon the individuals, upon the human beings, and also upon nature. Because beauty is an experience of ecstasy, of self-transcendence, and you can't have a control in a self-transcendence state, in a non-dual state of consciousness, that is the beauty state. And so human beings bring into the existence ethic and morals and ethics, in order to have a control on nature, and upon other human beings, and also upon themselves. They try to have a control through ethics and morals. In nature, there is something more beautiful and great than ethics and morals, and this is inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is an ability that each one of us has, and it is the ability of feeling the other underneath your skin, within yourself, within your heart. And this is the real power that I think our society has to achieve, everyone has to achieve, in order to turn from the present civilization, which is a very violent civilization, to a pacific, a peaceful, a blissful and illuminated civilization. We have to shift from ethics, morals, to inclusiveness. And when this shift is done, you can't be scared by black magic. The word, Susan, is in the eye of the beholder. So if you see black magic, it's because something black and something bad is within you. And this is why you see black magic and you are scared by black magic. I can tell you that the first shamans in this world were the black shamans. The black shamanism is the most ancient one and the most authentic, original one. But the black shamans existed before the morals, before ethics, in a state of nature, when everything was pure. You see, in Latin, the Latins said, omnia munda mundis. Omnia munda mundis in Latin means everything is pure for the purest. And so the black shamans were simply the one who could do the shamanic journey, the journey into the underworld. The black shamans were the authentic ones because they were the ones who can see into the invisibility and perceive the mystery and talk to the mystery. And nowadays the black shamans in Siberia are the blacksmith shamans. I have a friend, his name is Alexei, who is a black shaman and a blacksmith shaman. He lives in the Olkhon Island, which is in the middle of Lake Baikal. And I go to meet him during the winter when there are no tourists, when the Baikal Lake is frozen and There are seals, you can see seals on the ice, and nature is so beautiful during the winter. I go to meet Alexei, and he used to do a ritual during the winter, very impressive. He makes a fire, and he puts a bar of iron in the fire, and he keeps it in the fire up to when it grows red hot, and then he licks it, and he spits onto the presents to purify them. And in such a way, licking the iron bar, which is grown red hot, he shows to everyone that a shaman is free from the common inner narrative. You see, our lives are inner narratives. Inner narratives that become events, existence. And usually individuals write this inner narrative in the company with a wrong ghost writer, a wrong co-writer. Because you see, Susan, when you write your inner narrative, you are not alone. There is someone with you. And this one can be your mind, which is the representative of a society, of a civilization, and society, which are a big conditioning. And if a ghostwriter with whom you are writing your inner narrative is your mind, is a civilization, you write a very narrow narrative with lot of boundaries and limits, which create pain and suffer. But if you change the ghostwriter, if you rebel, if you rebel to this false co-writer, and you find the real one, which is beauty, nature, or the divine, the world soul, you can call it as you prefer, but is not your mind, is something wider, mysterious, something that you can't control. Let's call it divine. So if you can write your inner narrative with this co-writer, everything becomes free and wider, and you see infinite possibilities of expression and joy. And this is the only way to reach a complete self-fulfillment, changing the ghostwriter, the co-writer of your inner narrative. This is the only way to reach self-fulfillment. And when you write your inner narrative with the beautiful co-writer, you can't write bad and wrong and black. You only write about light and beauty and joy and peace and serenity. The question of black magic, the question of black and bad, is only a question of writing the inner narrative with a false co-writer, with a false ghostwriter that has an interest, that is interested in bringing in the existence bad and wrong and black in order to scare you, to scare you. Because if you are afraid, you can be manipulated, you can be a little piece of a world instead of being a great piece of the planet, a great piece of the nature. And when you are a piece of the world instead of being a piece of nature, you are foreseeable, you are governable, you are measurable. And this is exactly what the wrong co-writer, the false co-writer, wants you to be. So it's just a question of inner narrative, Susan. Does it make sense, in your opinion? Does this make sense for you, Susan?
I'm trying to hold two things at the same time, which is this conversation of the inner reality that we write, and the other conversation of the power of somebody to ruin somebody else's life with unseen forces.
No.
And it also has to do, Selene, with giving so much power and authority to shamans to be healers, right?
Yeah.
And to manipulate things in the life and body of another person. And it can be done with ill intention as well as good intention.
Yes, but all that, Susan, all that depends on an inner narrative in which you depict a world in which you are a victim of the events, in which you need an help from outside because you don't have the real means within yourself. This is a world in which you are as given the power, the control to somebody else, to somebody who is outside yourself. And this word starts within yourself, starts in your inner narrative. So you see, the world, as I said, is in the eyes of the beholder. If one believes in the possibility that someone else can, through invisible forces, invisible energies, affect his life, this of course can happen. But if one lives in a world where this is not possible, because everything is decided inwards, not outwards, but inwards. So this couldn't happen.
So Selene, this is very interesting. Okay, so with that capacity, how would one go to even see a shaman?
To find someone similar.
Because, what you're saying is that if you know that your entire world is a projection of your own internal reality, and you are the author in many ways of that inner reality, you would have a very different relationship to a shaman or a doctor or a therapist or whatever it is that you go outside for than somebody who doesn't have that perspective, right?
According to my experience, one always goes to meet someone who is similar. Because we need to know ourselves by looking at ourselves in a mirror. So I think that people that are scared and they believe in black and bad, they have high possibilities to meet black magic. I mean, they don't have to meet it, but they have a lot of possibilities to meet black magic, because they need to know themselves. They need to recognize something that they carry inside and that they need to dissolve or overcome or transform. How can you transform something if you don't know it? You need to see it before to try to transform it. And so, if one has black and bad within himself, he needs to meet black and bad outside in order to transform it. And this is the reason why somebody sometimes meet a false shaman who is someone who does black magic. But someone who does black magic is not a real shaman. Is just a black magician.
Right.
I personally, I have never met a black shaman. Never. I only met great, beautiful shamans, beautiful people who are free from ordinary boundaries. They are very simple people, but they are very free people. And these are the shamans for me. The real shaman is not an healer, because a real shaman exists where illnesses don't exist. Shamanism was here on this planet before illness was created by human beings. And the real shaman is connected to the original shamanism, and so is not a healer, is a psychopomp. A real shaman is a psychopomp, is a ferryman who carries you from one side to the other of a great threshold, and then he takes you back. He makes you, he allows you to travel through the three worlds: the underworld, the upper world, and the middle world. And he shows you things that you had never know before. And so he allows your conscience to become wider, to expand, and to awaken through the inner journey, which is the shamanic journey. A true shaman is a ferryman, is not a healer. But because nowadays people have these bad habits to get sick, sometimes some real shaman can become a healer because of his compassion. Because the shaman mission is helping others. And so if it is necessary, a shaman can even heal, can even help someone else to heal himself. But anyway, is still not an healer. He is just someone who has a mission, and his mission is to help others. This is my experience, Susan. This is my experience.
Selene, another question that keeps coming up a lot these days, and that is about the use of drugs, ayahuasca, San Pedro, because so many of these shamans ritually use these drugs, at least in Central America and in South America. And big discussions within the spiritual community as to whether the using these drugs is a helpful thing or not a helpful thing to expand one's consciousness.
I understand. You see, these drugs were created in nature, in a natural state of consciousness, and they are supposed to be used by people who are in a natural state of consciousness. Civilized people are in a completely different world. They have a completely different psychic structure. They are in the company with a false co-writer, and they are writing an inner narrative, an inner reality full of boundaries and limits. If they take ayahuasca vine, they broken these limits and boundaries suddenly. And this can be a bad experience for them, because they still are scared people, afraid. They still have a fear within themselves. And then they come back from the ayahuasca journey. They remember their fears, their boundaries, their limits, and they didn't acquired, they didn't received anything very useful from their journey. They just had burned some neurons in their brains, and so after the journey they have something less and not something more. In order to take the ayahuasca, you should be free from the false co-writer or ghostwriter. You should be free from the conditioning of the world. You should be in a natural state, like a primitive. You should be not influenced by the conditioning of civilization. So if you are free, if you are pure, if you have a pure heart, ayahuasca vine can help. But if you are civilized, if you have boundaries and limits, all the boundaries and limits caused by a civilization, and if you are full of fear, you have not the power of faith and love within yourself, the unconditional love within yourself, better don't take any drugs, because drugs plus fear makes a big mess. Do you know what I mean? Is it clear, Susan?
Yeah, I'm wondering if you were really completely free and without fear, why would you even bother taking ayahuasca?
Because freedom is an experience that one can undertake at different intensity levels. The last one is the level in which one is alive and dead at the same moment. As Shiva was, for instance. Shiva has the body covered by ash. Because, not because he puts ash on his body, but because he emits ash from all the pores of his skin. Because Shiva is dead and alive at the same time. And the last step of freedom is being alive and dead at the same time. Ayahuasca allows you to reach this last step, just in case you haven't reached it in other way, through other ways. So ayahuasca can help. In this case, it can help. But one should not have any kind of fear within himself in order to do this experience. If one takes ayahuasca and he has or she has fear within inside, is a big mess, Susan. Is a disaster. Ayahuasca plus fear is a disaster. And people don't know that they have fear, because fear is like a bad smell, and people become used to the bad smell, and so they don't recognize to have a fear. They have problems, they have limits, they have boundaries, they recognize to have problems in their lives, but they are not able to see that their problems are caused by their fear. Yeah. They always think that their problems are caused by someone else, something that is outside. They are not able to see the fear within themselves and to recognize that their problems are caused by their fear. This is dangerous. This is really dangerous, because maybe they can think to be free from fear. And if someone thinks to be fear free, and it takes something like ayahuasca or a spiritual drug, could be really dangerous. Could be really dangerous. And it doesn't give anything good, anything more. But probably take something away from you. At least some neurons. You see. So ayahuasca contains a substance. I think it is called dimethyltryptamine or tryptamine, dimethyltryptamine. How you call it? In Italian is dimethyltryptamina.
Yeah.
DMT, yes. DMT. And DMT is a substance that our pineal gland emits after death. And so, of course, assuming DMT, one does the experience of death.
Yeah.
And they see spirits. They see many images like in a dream. And this is exactly the experience that the dying does. And you should not have fear in order to do such experience. If one doesn't have fear, it is a very beautiful experience, because it brings a great freedom, a great knowledge. But if one is not prepared, it's dangerous. Yes, do you know what I mean? Does it make sense, Susan?
Yeah, completely. Well, thank you so much for this conversation between black magic and ayahuasca, and it's been a really timely and important exchange. Thank you, Selene.
Thank you to you, Susan. Thanks.